yugo. Dili ba ang puasa nga akong gikinanglan mo nga hatagan ninyo pagkaon ang mga gigutom? O papuyo ninyo sa inyong balay ang mga kabus na walay pulianan? O gabistihan ninyo ang hubo, inay pasagda ninyo ang inyong kaigsunan? Nining mga adlaw sa Korisma, ipahinumduman kita unsa kadako sa gugma nga gihatag sa man kanato. Ug aron madawat nato ang maong gugma ug kaluoy sa Ginoo, kita buhatag usab og gugma ug kaluoy ngadto sa uban. Kini ang inyong Tatay Dudong, maghinaot kaunta masabtan nato ang kadako ug kalawom sa maong gugma. Niining atong pagpangandam sa pagsaulog sa labing dakong selebrasyon ang pagkabanaw sa atong Ginoo. Shalom.
Someday I'm coming home to you, you'll see. And what a day it will be, Cebu. I'm coming home to you, you'll see. You that keeps on haunting me night and day, just like a sailor to the sea. For memories of you still linger on. The people, as you pass by, smile at you as if they know you very well. Hotels and condominiums on the hilltops envy the captivating city lights. The bridges lay across an island where multicolored crafts fly, resorts and hotels line the shorelines. Oh, it's a tourist paradise. But how could I forget the Mardi Gras, which we celebrate year after year? Cebu, I'm coming home to you, you see. And what a day it will be, Cebu. I'm coming home to you someday. The people, as you pass by, smile at you as if they know you very well. Hotels and condominiums on the hilltop envy the captivating city lights. The bridges lay across an island where multicolored crafts fly, resorts and hotels on the shorelines. Oh, it's a tourist paradise. Oh, but how could I forget the Mardi Gras, which we celebrate year after year? Cebu, I'm coming home to you, you see. What a great day it will be, Cebu. I'm coming home to you someday. Oh, I'm coming home to you. Yes, I'm gonna be come running to you someday. Cebu.
Usa ka pagtuo. Usa ka tingog. Usa ka katawhan. Cebu Catholic Television Network.
Cebuanos Filipinos continue to thrive wherever they are all over the world. Catch a glimpse of their adventures as they explore and experience the world and share experiences with Filipinos living abroad. Join us and travel the world through their eyes with Attorney Divine Marshall Flores live from New Brunswick, Canada, and Tony Ortega live from British Columbia, Canada. This is CCTN International Pinoy Journeys.
Good morning, Cebu. Good morning, Philippines. Maayong adlaw na atong tanan. Welcome na usab sa atong tulumanon CCTN International Pinoy Journeys. Ako na usab si Divine Marshall Flores, live gikan diri sa New Brunswick, Canada.
Ako na usab si Tony Ortega, live gikan sa Richmond, British Columbia, Canada. Maayong buntag, Cebu. Good evening, Canada.
Yes, maayong hapon ni mo diha, Tony, og maayong gabi diri sa ako, diri sa New Brunswick, gabi karon, and of course, ang among weather diri bugnaw gihapon, Brad Tony. What about sa imo diha? Hapit na ang spring?
Makaingon ta attorney nga dinhi sa British Columbia karon murag mupaingon na kami sa season of spring og sa akong gigaingon nagpakita na ang haring adlaw. So expected a few weeks from now the weather becomes warmer and warmer og mupaingon na gyud ta sa pagka-spring.
Munay nakanindot diha. Pero kay baw ka, Brad Tony, kita nag-look forward ta no sa spring. Ang ato sa Philippines padung na summer and padung na sa Holy Week. Munay ma-miss na ko sa Pilipinas kay during Holy Week pagkadaghan nato og activities. But ang atong gikabalak-an karon ang padayon nga kagubot no. Kining nahitabo dito sa Russia ug ingon man sa Ukraine nga until now padayon gihapon ang pag-atake sa Russia ngadto sa sa Ukraine hinungdan nga dako kay ning epekto not only sa maong mga nasod but also in Canada and in the Philippines. Grabe kataas ang presyo sa atong gasolina, Brad Tony.
Exactly, attorney, mag-ingon ka nga epekto sa maong war sa Ukraine o sa Russia karon, dili lang ta makaingon nga Canada, but this is a global problem. This is a global problem ug makita nato ang epekto. In fact, ug ang maghisgot ang presyo sa gasolina ang diri sa Richmond karon ning abot nami sa $2.20, but comparing our prices in Canada to the Philippines, I think the Philippines is a bit cheaper than us here.
Mao ba?
Yes. Kay og ikumparar nato ang peso ang peso is 40. And then I called last night dito sa Philippines ang ilang presyo sa gasolina it's 63. So tingnan natin yung peso, mas mahal po ang presyo sa atin dito kaysa sa Pilipinas. Pero bisan pa ingon ana, attorney, we need to keep going. Hopefully na marisolba po yung problemang ito.
Yeah, keep praying. Baka magtaka yung mga televiewers natin, bakit tayo biglang nagsalita ng Tagalog? Kasi yung guest kasi natin, Pilipino, galing talaga sa Manila.
Yeah, speaking of guests tonight, attorney, sasabihin natin, isa din siya sa accomplished individual personality back in the Philippines at saka accomplished din siya dito ngayon sa British Columbia. But alam natin na pag-coming to Canada is not an easy job, it's not an easy way. Pero kung gusto naman talaga natin yung gusto nating mangyari sa buhay natin, siya ang guest po nga natin ngayon. Isa po siya sa example sa journey niya ngayong gabi.
Yes, isa siyang private school teacher in the Philippines, pero pagdating niya sa Canada, isa ring private school, Catholic teacher po siya doon, at saka isa din siyang newscaster, so saka is Philippine News Canada, right? So parang updated ito sa lahat ng mga pangyayari sa mga Filipinos dito sa Canada. And I'm very proud of her nga nakuha talaga niya, Brad Tony, yung profession niya sa Pilipinas, yun talaga ang profession niya dito sa Canada.
Yun ang disadvantage sa attorney if you're coming from the Philippines and you're well equipped. Kasi dito ikaw lang po ang magsusurrender kung ano yung gustong mangyari. The good thing for our guest for today, napaka-accomplished po siya. So I think hindi na natin anuhin pa yung oras. Ipapakilala na natin kung sino yung guest natin ngayon is no other than Miss Rosette Correa. Magandang gabi po, Miss Rosette.
Maayong buntag sa inyong tanan. Ayan, tama ba yung pagkakasabi ko?
Magaling. Yes.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. This is very exciting. Sabi ko nga sa producer ko dito sa PNC Balitang Vancouver, the tables have now been turned. Now I am the one being interviewed. I'm no longer the one who is interviewing. But it's such a pleasure to be on your show. And thank you so much for this opportunity to do this for you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. We know nga busy po kayo, but despite of that, may time pa rin kayo para sa amin, no? So live tayo ngayon, Ma'am Rosette, sa entire province of Cebu and some areas in Visayas and Mindanao and some areas in Luzon. And naka-live din tayo sa Facebook page natin sa CCTN Channel 47 at saka sa YouTube natin. Ito maganda yung journey ni Ma'am Rosette, Brad Tony, no? Very inspiring din tulad ng ibang mga Filipino. Diyan natin makikita na yung mga Filipino talaga mag-excel kahit saan ilagay sa mundo. So, Ma'am Rosette, please tell us a brief background, yung mga job experience mo sa Pilipinas bago ka pumunta sa Canada.
Well, actually, to make a long story short, my undergraduate degree from the University of the Philippines is interior design, and from there, alam mo naman sa atin, pag sinabi kasi natin sa magulang natin, gusto ko maging teacher. Sasabihin ng magulang natin, bakit mo gusto maging teacher? Walang pera doon. And so my parents told me to find another career, but that didn't work out. And so a few years after my practicing interior design, I finally decided to go into teaching. And so I earned my teaching units, and then eventually my first master's degree, and then my second master's degree, and then my PhD back in the Philippines. And so for the longest time, at least for the longest time in my lifetime, I have been a teacher. And so, natuloy talaga yung pangarap kong maging teacher. And my parents are very proud of my accomplishments because of what I've achieved. And when I came to Canada, ganun din, my mindset was becoming a teacher also. I did not see myself doing something else, although I was ready to venture into another career. Kasi even before becoming a teacher, I was an interior designer, I was in marketing, I was in sales. So, kumbaga, jack of all trades. But my love really is teaching. And so when I came to Canada, even prior to coming to Canada, I already submitted my documents to the BC College of Teachers for evaluation so that I can already be certified as a teacher when I come. That was my expectation. Of course, the expectation is different from reality. And so when I came to Canada, when we came to Canada with my family in 2006 as landed immigrants, we had the same struggles as everybody else. You know, coming to another country, you have to find work kasi kailangan namang makakumain yung pamilya mo. And at the time that we came here, we had a 10-year-old daughter and a 4-month-old daughter. And so my husband, and so my husband and I decided, you know what? Whatever needs to put food on the table, that's what we're going to do first. And so my husband and I, the very next day that we landed in Canada, sinuklay namin yung buong Broadway Broadway streets sa Vancouver. And namigay kami ng resumes. Kasi yun ang advice sa amin. Mamigay na kayo ng resumes para makahanap kayo ng trabaho. A few days after my husband was able to get a job at Denny's restaurant. And ako naman, as a dishwasher, and my husband was a practicing teacher also in the Philippines. He was a computer teacher. And so he actually, he applied for as a dishwasher in Denny's, and he actually enjoyed the work. Ako naman, hindi ako matanggap-tanggap. And so, the Filipinos who are already here told me, maybe you should restructure your resume kasi mukhang overqualified ka.
Kasi dalawang months tapos may doctorate.
Yes, kasi I was applying to McDonald's, I was applying to Wendy's, and siguro of course they were saying, why is this woman applying to become a burger flipper, no? But I like my husband and I decided we really had to work so that we can feed our family. And so fortunately that did not happen for me, but fortunately what I did was I went to Vancouver downtown. And Vancouver downtown, there's a lot of English as a second language schools. So mga ESL schools, marami dyan sa Cebu. I know there are a lot now in Cebu. And so I gave my resume, and thankfully enough, praise God, I received a few calls, and two of those calls I answered, and I became a teacher on call for those two institutions. And so after a few weeks of waiting, the Lord gave me work in teaching. And so from then on, I worked in those two teaching jobs as a teacher on call. Eventually, I got a permanent schedule in one of the schools. And apart from that, I tutored, I went to tutoring. And I also applied and was hired by Sylvan Learning Center. So I also became a tutor at a center. And my boss there was such a blessing. She told me, why don't you apply for a certification in the BC College of Teachers? And I said, I already did. But they said that I have to go and study again and do my professional development, which is 1 year of that's full studying load. And so I told them, I can't do that kasi kararating lang namin and I have to feed my family. And so sabi nung boss ko, well, why don't you challenge the board? So it didn't really cross my mind to challenge the board. Alam mo naman tayong mga Pilipino, we're so timid na iniisip natin. I don't know where we get that from, but we're so timid na pag sinabi na, ay, ito-challenge mo, naku, nakakatakot, baka lalong hindi ka tanggapin. Diba? That's our greatest fear. But that lady boss of mine, she's English. She's from the UK. She said, no, sabi niya, it's different here in Canada. Sabi niya, if you want to pursue something and you are capable and you know that you are qualified, why don't you try? There's no harm in trying. At least you tried. And so I wrote a letter to the BC College of Teachers because, even though they approved, they still wanted me to study for 1 more year. And so I wrote to the board and I said, I would like to see you. And I had to, alam mo yun, kailangan may lakas ka ng loob na magsabi, because if you know that you're qualified, bakit ka matatakot? And so I saw the board. So they sent me an email back, and then they said, okay, let's schedule you for an interview on this date. And then one of the funny things that they said was, bring your lawyer. Sabi ko, I can't afford one. So can I come on my own? And they said, yeah, you can come on your own. I think the whole point was that you should have a witness.
Uh-huh.
And so I said, no, I'm coming on my own. So pati yon, nilaksan ko yung loob ko. Nasabi ko, hindi, no, I'm coming on my own. And so I did. And I was armed with, kasi I authored some textbooks for Diwa Publishing in the Philippines before I left. And so I brought those books with me. And then I also brought some of the articles that I wrote for the Educators Journal in the Philippines and other things that I wrote. And so, armed with those, I went into the boardroom, and there were about 6 older people, like 6 retired teachers who were members of the board. And then ayun na, nag-start na. So they started interviewing me, and they grilled me for an hour to 2 hours regarding curriculum, regarding assessment, design, etc., etc. And while they were interviewing me, they were looking at the textbooks that I authored.
Okay.
And they were asking me, does this have an ISBN? I said, yes, please look at the back. This is registered. These books are registered. With the ISBN numbers in the back. So they couldn't believe it that I actually wrote a book. Or actually wrote 4. And so they looked at those, and then they looked at the journals. And then after the 2 hours of interview, they said, how do you know all of these things? That was the first question. And alam mo, gusto ko sanang sagutin, well, you know what? We don't live in trees like you think we do. But I had to stop myself. But I told them, I said, well, you know, where else will we get our curriculum? I said, I work at an international school in the Philippines. Where do you think we will get our curriculum? Of course, we will get it from you, from Canada, from the US, from the UK. And they were just flabbergasted. They did not expect me to answer any of those questions. And the funny thing is that British Columbia just adopted a new curriculum, an updated curriculum 3-4 years ago. And that curriculum that they adopted 4 years ago was the curriculum that I was teaching 16 years ago.
Wow.
And
you're so at that time.
Kasi yung may-ari ng school that I used to work for in the Philippines, si Dr. Tan, she would always go to different countries, you know, when she can. And then she would take all of their curricula and bring it back to us. So our school was very progressive. We would have a different curricula every year. If we needed to revamp our syllabus every year, we would. And so we were so familiar with the curricula of different parts of the world that that particular curriculum that BC just adopted 4 years ago was something we were already doing 16 years ago. I think that was one of the reasons why the board was just floored. They could not believe what they were hearing. And so with a straight face, they said, okay, do you have any questions for us? And so I asked them, well, I said, the only question that I have is, why do you think teachers from a foreign country cannot teach here in Canada?
Oh.
I said, because, you know, and then I think one of them said, oh, well, because, you know, you teach, you know, Filipinos, it's a different culture, etc. I said, well, we teach people. Don't we teach people here in Canada too? And so medyo na ano sila, parang natigilan sila kasi they couldn't believe that I would ask a question like that I would question a policy na totoo naman, 'di ba? Parang pare-pareho naman tayong tao yung tinuturuan. Bakit? Why would you think I would teach them any different from how you teach them?
Yeah.
And so that was my parting question to them. And then they said, okay, we will let you know in a month's time what our decision is. And so I came out of that meeting thinking, did that last question just kill my chances of getting certified? You know?
Wala yung chance na bigyan ka ng license kahit hindi mag-study pa.
I know. And I said, I just prayed to the Lord, and I said, Lord, it's up to you, because you brought me here for a reason, and everything that happens in my life is because of you. And so I said, it's your decision. It's not mine. I did my best. And then a week after, I get a letter from the BC College of Teachers saying, congratulations, you're now a certified teacher.
Wow, sure.
So instead of a month, they actually wrote me in a week. And so that was one of the proudest moments of my life, because I was able to stand for myself and stand for the Filipinos. Kasi sometimes we feel that we are undermined, even though we have so many talents, and so, we're a very intelligent people. Sometimes it's also us na nagpipigil sa ating mga sarili. And so I think that it's necessary for us to know what our strengths are and to always use those strengths. Kasi there's like what my boss said, there's no harm in trying.
Correct.
Right?
But Ma'am Rose, before tayo mag-proceed sa puntong dyan, yung nasa Canada na kayo, what made you decide, no? Balik tayo ng konti. Kasi parang stable ka doon sa Philippines at saka yung husband mo, kasi full teachers kayong dalawa. What made you decide to go to Canada?
Well, staying in the Philippines would have been an ego trip, because before we left for Canada, I was already up for a position of dean in one of the colleges. That I actually worked part-time pa, aside from studying. I also worked part-time as a university professor at the University of Perpetual Help in Las Piñas. And so the owner of the school that I worked at, the international school, Southville International School, was also growing. It was also establishing its colleges and universities. And the owner, who's actually a good friend of mine now, she was already grooming me for a position as a dean. And so, at that point in time, I was thinking, yeah, you know what? It's a prestigious position, right? I worked hard for it, despite my raising a daughter at that time, raising a family. I completed 2 master's degrees and a PhD. But then I also discussed it with my husband. I said, you know what, the blessings that we have will not be the same blessings that our children will have. And so we decided, if we really want our children to have the same opportunities like we do, we have to move out of the Philippines. Because we know we can see the disparity between the rich and the poor. In the Philippines, it's so prevalent na it's not what you know, it's who you know. And so we decided to go, and people have been dissuading us. Sabi nila, lilipat pa kayo sa Canada okay naman, may mga position kayo sa eskwelahan, ganyan. Ikaw magiging dean ka na, iiwanan mo lahat yan, tapos maglilinis ka lang ng banyo sa Canada. And sabi ko, I said, I have not done that. So, that's another adventure. I always looked at it as an adventure, an opportunity. Kaya nga yung husband ko, when he became a dishwasher sa Denny's, tuwan-tuwa siya. Kasi hindi nga na-experience yun. Right? And so I said, so when we decided to move to Canada, there was no looking back. Our intention really to go to Canada is really for our children. And there was no question about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So nandiyan na kayo sa Canada, na-approve ka na sa board, yung appeal mo na dapat hindi ka na babalik pa sa school. Ano pa bang pag-aralan mo? two masters ka na, may doctor's degree ka pa. So ano ba? So what happened after that? When you had the license?
Okay, so when I received my license, so the very first thing I did was I applied for teaching qualification system, they call it here the TQS, and it shows you what your salary rank is. Kasi dito sa Canada, dito sa BC, you're not hired and ine-negotiate ng school yung kumbaga yung salary mo. Standardized ang salary. So whatever school you go to, kung let's say either a public school or a private school, kung there's a tier, so there's 10 tiers. So first tier would be a newly graduate teacher, and then so there's a salary scale. And so that's the first thing I did. So I applied for TQS, and thankfully, praise God, I was on top of the food chain because sa Philippines, di ba, K to 10 lang tayo. Am I aging myself? Hindi pa ngayon lang nag-K to 12, di ba? But during our time, my time at least, kami ni Tony, K to 10. Ikaw din, Divine. Okay. So K to 10 lang tayo. So talagang kulang tayo ng 2 years. And so kaya yung iba na mga dumarating dito na mga ang qualifications lang nila is graduate sila ng 4-year course sa college, kulang pa rin sila ng 2 taon. That's why they have to go back to school. And so when I went to the TQS and I said, okay, here are my transcripts, here's my diploma, etc. So kumbaga, all of them combined, lampas-lampas pa dun sa required na 2 years.
Yeah, it's true.
So so I was placed on top of the food chain. Pero there's a caveat kasi in terms of hiring, syempre, uunahin nilang i-hire yung mga mura. Di ba? Pag nasa top ka na ng food chain, lahat ng benefits, lahat ng, yung salary scale mo, syempre, they have to meet that kasi yun ang qualifications mo. So again, nagdasal na naman ako kay Lord. Sabi ko, Lord, bahala ka na kung saan mo ako gustong ilagay. Kasi I applied for the Vancouver School District. And then eventually we moved to Surrey and I applied to the Surrey School District, etc. Walang tumatawag. And then, so I prepared a resume, a cover letter and a resume. And then I sent it to the 40 different Catholic schools.
40?
40.
There's 40 Catholic schools in the Lower Mainland.
At dyan,
Both elements.
mo ng resume?
Pinadalhan ko sila isa-isa ng resume. I spent money on postage, but it's worth the postage. And so I sent them all letters. And then a few schools replied. All of them asked me to be a teacher on call. But the school that I work at right now, Immaculate Conception School in Delta, replied and said, we have a position as a learning resource teacher. And so they interviewed me for that position. And and in a month's time, I was hired to be a learning resource teacher. So I've been at that school since 2008, 2 years after we landed in Canada.
And until now, yun pa rin yung employer mo.
And until now, they are still my employer. And I think I will retire there.
Okay. Rosette, mayroon akong tanong sa iyo kasi sinabi mo kasi na parang kulang po yung number of years natin back in the Philippines sa pag-aaral natin. Yung implementation po ng K-12 tapos ginawa na naman nila. Kung na-implement yun, napatuloy yun, nakakatulong ba yun sa Philippine side na yung pag-implement ng K-12? Kasi nandito, alam mo dito ang sitwasyon. What do you think?
Actually, if you look at the entire world, there are only 5 countries that are still K-10. If the Philippines went back to K-10, we'll be one of them na naman. Because all of the schools all over the world use the K-12. Kasi nga, ang ginagawa sa K-12 is yung 2 years na after the 10th grade, doon na nagsispecialize yung mga bata. So I'll give you an example. My daughter, who is now in grade 11 at Catholic high school, in grade 10, they already have to choose, okay, what path are you taking? Are you taking the arts path, or are you taking the science and math path? And so when you decide right there and then whether you're going to science or the arts, to STEM or the arts in university, by grades 11 and 12, kailangan yung mga subjects na iti-take mo are sciences and math na. If you're going to do the arts, so you don't have to do the maths and the sciences. So yung 2 years na yon, grades 11 and 12, they are already preparing you for university work. Di ba sa atin, pag pumasok tayo ng first year college, doon pa lang tayo magte-take ng calculus, ng
Algebra.
yung mga higher maths, di ba? Dito, high school pa lang kinukuha na.
Yeah.
So by the time they enter university, diretso na sila dun sa mga majors. Yes. So that is the beauty of the K-12. Kasi sa high school pa lang, makakapag-decide ka na ano ba yung gusto kong gawin. STEM ba? Is it science, technology, engineering, and math? Or am I going into business or into arts? Yon, kasi doon yung hindi nasasayang yung taon, di ba? So, kumbaga sa atin, suma total, ang pinag-aaralan mo lang na college is 2 years. Kasi the first 2 years, which is general education, parang yun lang yung 2 years mo sa high school. And so dito, hindi. High school subjects yan, sa high school mo kukunin. Pagdating mo ng university, mag-focus ka na dun sa majors mo. So that's why it's very important that the Philippines knows this, kasi nag-i-export tayo ng mga laborers eh. We export employees.
Correct.
So if we want to export employees, they have to be qualified to work in a career that matches whatever their education is. And to be able to do that, you need to make sure that their training in university is already very intensive. Para pagdating nila dun sa bansa, yung qualifications nila pwede nang i-match.
Yeah. No questions asked na.
Yeah.
Oo. Talagang you just have to prove yourself na you can do the job. And I have faith that Filipinos who go abroad, matatapang lahat ng mga Pilipinong nag-abroad. Walang nag-abroad na Pilipino na duwag. Kailangan mo kasing tapangan ng loob mo.
Oo nga, tama ka. Oh, okay.
Diba?
Ma'am Rose, mag-commercial break tayo. Pagbalik natin, interested ako, nung nag-start ka nang nag-teach sa Catholic school, may mga challenges ba? At saka yung dream na maganda yung maging future ng mga anak mo, kumusta naman po? Nangyari po ba? At saka, yung paano ka napunta dun sa media na side? 'Di ba? Kasi nasa Philippine News kadadaka. Yan, Brad Tony, ang i-ask natin kay Ma'am Rose sa pagbabalik natin. Standby. Babalik tayo after these reminders.
Ang Ash Wednesday, mo'y sinugdanan sa 40 kaadlaw nga Lenten season nga matapos sa Domingo sa pagkabanhaw. Alang nato mga Katoliko, kini mo ang panahon sa paghinulsol sa mga sala nga atong nabuhat. Ang paghinulsol mo ang hingpit ka pagtalikod sa sala o pagbago sa kinabuhi. Sa Isaiah 58, 6 kadto sa 7, nagingon, ang puasa nga akong gikinanglan mo ang pagbugto sa mga gapos sa sala o pagtangtang sa hikot sa yugo, ingon man sa paghatag o kagawasan sa mga dinaog-daog. Ang pagbali sa tanang yugo, dili ba ang puasa nga akong gikinanglan mo nga hatagan ninyo pagkaon ang mga gigutom o papuyo ninyo sa inyong balay ang mga kabus nga walay pulianan o gabistihan ninyo ang hubo inay pasagda ninyo ang inyong kaigsunan. Nining mga adlaw sa Korisma, ipahinumduman kita unsa kadako sa gugma nga gihatag sa amahan kanato. Ug aron madawat nato ang maong gugma ug kaluoy sa Ginoo, kita buhatag usab og gugma ug kaluoy ngadto sa uban. Kini ang inyong Tatay Dudong, maghinaot kaunta masabtan nato ang kadako ug kalawom sa maong gugma. Niining atong pagpangandam sa pagsaulog sa labing dakong selebrasyon ang pagkabanaw sa atong Ginoo. Shalom.
Okay, balik ta sa atong tulumanon CCTN International Pinoy Journey. So, Brad Tony, I'm sure katong nagtanaw na to karon na-inspire kay sila ning story ni Ma'am Rosette nga pwede na ikaw teacher nga dili nakakinalan mo eskwela diri sa Canada basta mo fight ka sa board.
Tinood, attorney, while Miss Rosette was explaining, was sharing her journey, alam mo, nakanganga ako, ganun pa? Ganun kasi, sa totoo lang, si Miss Rosette po, kilalang ko lang siya because of the community involvement, pero kung sino siya talaga, ngayon ko lang po nalaman, sabi ko, oh, mine.
Ganun pala yung journey niya, no? Okay. So, Ma'am Rose, tuloy natin yung yung nag-start na po kayo as a Catholic school teacher, may mga challenges ba? Kasi sabi nila iba yung ugali ng mga bata sa ibang bansa kaysa mga ugali ng mga Pinoy. Ganon. Kumusta naman po?
Alam mo, divine God is good all the time. I think I believe that he gave me the job in the Catholic school because ang mga bata sa Catholic school parang mga bata sa Pilipinas. Plus the fact that about 50-60% of those who are enrolled in the Catholic school system here in BC are Filipinos. Alam mo tayong mga Pilipino, nagtitiwala tayo sa edukasyon na galing sa simbahan. Not only because of the discipline and of course the Catholic component, but also the academic excellence na fina-follow ng Catholic schools, no? So, alam mo, awa ng Diyos, talagang mabait talaga sa akin si Lord. Wala akong naging challenge whatsoever. The children are very nice. They are well-mannered. Their parents have taught them very well. I've heard stories from those teachers who teach in the public school system, and I would not replace my job even if it pays more. Actually, there's more benefits in the public school than in the private school. But I've learned to know. I have learned to accept, and I have accepted it wholeheartedly, that teaching is a vocation, and that it's not about the money. People are saying, we have this, we have that, you should ask for more money, etc. I say, no, why? Because I love going to my job every day. That in itself is a blessing.
Correct.
And so,
yung policy kasi ng government ng Canada tulad ng same-sex marriage pwede.
Right.
Pero ang teaching ng Catholic, 'di ba? Yung teaching natin is parang against yan sa law of God. Paano yan natin i-reconcile or dinidiscuss ba yan sa klase niyo? Anong grade na po ang hinahandle niyo ngayon?
I teach grade 7. And yes, we do discuss the teachings of the church, which includes marriage. The goodness of being in a Catholic school in BC is that, unlike other provinces, Catholic education in other provinces is free, just like a public school education. In BC, the parents pay 50% of it. And
Okay.
there is a reason for that. The reason being is that because the parents pay 50% of the tuition, it means that the government can back off. Kasi the schools, because they are called independent schools, they're actually not called private schools, they're called independent schools. Especially the faith-based schools, they are independent of what government tells us to teach. So even if the government is telling us to teach, sexual orientation and gender identity and same-sex marriage and all of these things and abortion and all that, we have the option, because we are an independent school, not to teach it.
Oh, really?
Unlike in other provinces where it's 100% subsidized by the government, even if you're at a Catholic school, if that's the case, then the government can dictate what you teach because the government is paying the tuition. But in BC, it's only 50%.
Ms. Rosette, yung acceptance po ninyo sa estudyante every year, do they have to follow what are the requirements set by the school, considering po na it's a Catholic school po siya, so mayroon pang sabihin natin, kagaya sa Pilipinas, yung mama mo ba or papa mo ba is Catholic ba, yung ganun ba, mayroon bang mga sitwasyon na ganun?
Actually, that's a very good question. We do have students who are non-Catholics. Malaki sa population ng Catholic schools here in BC are South Asian, yung mga Indians from India. Kasi sa India, ang mga schools doon, kahit Catholic school, kahit hindi ka Catholic, pumapasok yung mga bata. So a lot of the parents here who are either Hindu or Sikh were actually educated in Catholic institutions back in India. So even here, they want their children to go to a Catholic school.
Oh, okay.
Kaya lang, syempre, uunahin ng Catholic schools those who are parishioners of the parish, those who are Catholic. Make me different categories yan. But definitely, there are children in our school and all of the schools here who are non-Catholics.
Yung anak mo, Ma'am Rose, kumusta naman po? Kasi yun naman ang number one reason, ba't kayo nagpunta dyan? So, how's your kid now?
Yeah. So my eldest is 26 years old, and she graduated from her undergraduate degree. Her major is linguistics, and she has a minor in psychology, early learning, learning disabilities. She has 5 minors. And then she applied for her master's degree at the University of British Columbia to study speech-language pathology. So she will be a speech-language pathologist after 2 years. So she's doing her master's degree right now. I don't know where she gets it from. Mahilig mag-aral yung mga bata.
Galing sa mama. Galing sa mama.
And then it's funny. And then my youngest is in grade 11, and she is hoping to get into UBC also to do engineering. She is on her path to doing engineering in the UBC. And it's funny because there came a time in our house na makikita mo yung ano namin, yung dining table namin, lahat punong-puno ng libro. Kasi in one corner is my eldest daughter studying, in another corner is my youngest daughter studying also, and then in another corner is my husband also upgrading. He also studied. He also studied to upgrade, and then here I am in the other corner also doing my 3rd master's degree, which I finished last year. So. Really? Yes, at the UBC, St. Mark's College.
Ba't ang daming masters mo?
Wala eh. Marami akong oras eh. No,
Miss
it's,
Rosette, may tanong po ako. Have you ever encountered na nagtatanong sa'yo? Kasi yung experience po ng anak ko, I brought my daughter here, family ko, I brought my family here way back 2013. That day after nag-landed po sila, I brought them to the school. So pinaano po sila, pina-upgrade yung mga school credentials nila. The first question was, where did you learn your English? Sabi niya, bakit kaya ganon ang most comment ng mga teachers, especially puti? Parang hindi nila maniniwala. Yung mga estudyante, totoo naman yung mga estudyanteng mga bata ngayon darating natin, they're very good in English. Bakit kaya ganon ang reaction ng mga teachers, especially yung puting teachers?
Well, kasi talagang they didn't really expect. Well, at least they now know. It's rare now that you hear a question like that because when they see immigrants, when the word immigrant to a lot of people here in Canada means, it's a person who came from a very poor country. Therefore, that person probably doesn't know English because they're so poor, they don't have an opportunity to learn English. And so I have to educate them sometimes, and I tell them, that in the Philippines, our lingua franca is actually English. And if you go to any bank or any establishment and you have to fill in a form, it's in English. And so that's the only time that they realize that, okay, it's English is a second language here. Yeah, so I said yes. Our grammar may be faulty to some point, but yes, we can speak English. So I think that's the reason why, because most immigrants don't speak English. We're a rarity. Kumbaga.
Yeah. At saka mayroon pang sitwasyon Miss Rosette na sabi ng anak ko, ang anak ko kasing dinala ko dito, I think second year college po siya sa USP, University of Southern Philippines. Tapos ang nangyari po, bumalik siya. Sabi ng anak ko, Dad, yung program ko ngayon is pinalik ko to. This is my program back in college. So parang redundant daw sa kanila yon. Why? What do you think?
Was she in college when she came?
Second year. Second year, pero bumalik siya, naging 40, parang second year high school ata siya. Ganun po.
Oo, kasi one of the reasons is here in Canada, we start school at 9 and we end at 3. So that's 6 hours. Well, actually, technically, that's 5.5 hours of school. Whereas in the Philippines, we start at 7 and we end at 4.
Yeah.
Dahil marami tayong subjects in a day. And so marami tayong subjects, marami tayong natatouch na mga topics in whatever subject area it is na hindi pa nila nako-cover dito, especially in the elementary school level. It changes once you go into high school. Medyo doon nagsispecialize ng konti pag higher, pag grades 11 and 12 na. Doon na pumapasok yung mga subjects like calculus, physics, chemistry na higher level na hindi natin na-experience pa sa Philippines. But most of the time, pag elementary school subjects, were more advanced in the Philippines than here.
Okay. So, Ma'am Rose, from a school teacher, paano po kayo napunta sa media?
Well, one of my loves really is to write. I also wanted to be a journalist, which again, my parents said, ano gagawin mo sa journalism? Walang pera dyan. Okay, so lahat ng careers na gusto ko, wala daw pera. In fact, another career that I wanted to go into was to be an opera singer. Pero ayaw din nila yun. Sabi, anong gagawin mo? Wala namang opera dito sa Pilipinas. And so I wanted to be a journalist. And so I write a lot. So Rayfort Media is the longest, is the most, it's the most, ano ba yun? Pinakamahaba na siya na pinakamatagal na siya na media outfit here in BC, in Vancouver most especially. Almost 20 years na in business ang PNC and Philippine Asian News Today and Philippine Showbiz Today. And so you would see all of their papers in Filipino stores, Filipino restaurants. And I was so intrigued. I was so I was attracted by it. And so I called the owner. Ito na naman ako si lakas ng loob, diba? So kinausap ko yung owner, si Ray Fortaleza, and he's such a wonderful, wonderful person. He and his wife, Sally Fortaleza, they are such good people. And I said, you know what? I want to write for your paper. And then they said, oh, okay, sure. And so I started writing for them. And then eventually I became their senior editor. And then a few years after, they decided to go into, they actually were already on TV on Shaw, Channel 116, which is a multicultural channel, which gives airtime for free sa mga multicultural groups, right? And so they had a show called PNC Balitang Vancouver. And they said, would you like to host or would you like to be the anchor for PNC Balitang Vancouver? And I said, I've never been on TV. Why do you think I could do this? And they said, sige na. So parang nakiusap sila na, sige na, ikaw na mag-anchor. And so in 2015, I started doing TV. I started doing their show with the brother of Ray Fortaleza, who's Rolly, who's my producer and director. And, you know, as they say, the rest is history. The reason why I got involved in the media, in the Philippine media, is I want, kaya ninyo, yung objective ninyo is to really show yung galing ng mga kababayan natin. And that's how, you know, no matter where we go, no matter where we are, you know, we will survive. O diba parang si Gloria Gaynor, we will thrive and survive. Kasi magagaling ang mga Pinoy. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to emphasize that we are, you know, that we are not only good people, that our food and not only our food is delicious, but that we are a very intelligent people, and that we are people that you can reckon with. And so that was my objective, to be involved in the Filipino community in this manner. And then eventually, I also got involved in the UPAABC, which is the University of the Philippines Alumni Association in DC. And ayun na, so kumbaga lumawak na yung sphere of acquaintances and friendships. And like I said, I was able to now show the people of Vancouver and the Lower Mainland and all over Canada that this is the Filipino. We are people to reckon with. We are very good people. We are intelligent people. We're smart people. We're beautiful people. And we have so much to offer you.
Yeah. Parang feel at home na po kayo dito sa Canada. Diba? Ang swerte mo talaga. Ano po ba ang namimiss mo sa Pilipinas?
Well, I still have my 83-year-old mother in the Philippines, and I haven't seen her in a while. Much as I wanted to see her every year when the pandemic hit. The last time we saw her was before the pandemic. And marami akong namimiss sa Philippines, yung mga barkada ko in high school, yung mga beach, yung seafood. Ang dami.
Saan ka ba galing sa Pilipinas, ma'am? Which part of the Philippines are you coming from?
I come from Las Piñas, but my mother is from Catanduanes. And my husband is from Quezon. So, mga tabing dagat sila. So, I really miss, you know, the beach. The last time we went home, I took my daughters to the beach kasi alam mo naman ang mga beach dito sa atin, di ba? Malamig ang tubig, hindi ka naman makapag-swim. And so I took my daughters to the beach and they just loved it. So there's so many things to miss in the Philippines. What I don't miss is the government. That's one of the main reasons why we also left. I stopped complaining. I told myself, stop complaining, just move on. And that's what we did. And so, mahal ko ang Pilipinas, mahal na mahal ko ang mga Pilipino. And when people, and you know what, some people even tell me, mahal mo pala ang Pilipino, ba't umalis ka? Bakit mo kami iniwan?
Yeah.
And I always tell them, alam nyo, kung hindi ako umalis, hindi ako makakatulong sa kapwa natin. Ngayon na nandito ako sa Canada, mas marami akong natulungan kesa nung nandyan ako. And so, because right now, for example, my high school barkada, my high school friends and we actually put up a foundation to give tuition money for our classmates whose children cannot afford to go to university, to college. And so that's one of the projects that we have. Another project is medical and funeral expenses. So if we had any batchmates from our high school who are in need of money for funerals or for medication and all that, nakakapagpadala kami. And so I said, ganyan ko kamahal ang Pilipinas. Staying in the Philippines doesn't make me love the Philippines more, because I would have better opportunities of helping others when I'm not there.
True. Okay, one last question, ma'am. Yung culture natin, no? Kasi yung youngest mo is 4 months old, nandito na sa Canada. Paano mo ba tinitis nila yung Filipino culture? Kasi yung nagisna ng youngest mo is Canada na talaga.
Mm-hmm. We are so fortunate to be in Canada, because in Canada we are encouraged to look at our culture, to be who we are. That's why we're not called a melting pot, like the United States, diba? We are a multicultural quilt, diba?
Yeah.
And so we're very fortunate that we are like that here in Canada, because makikita mo ang mga Pilipinong mga kabataan na kahit dito na sila lumaki, makikita mo nagmamano, o kaya bumabati, nagtatanggal ng sapatos sa pinto. There's so many things that our culture is ingrained in our children, in the next generation, that they really don't want to let go of who they are as Filipinos. They're so proud. They're actually very proud. Kaya nakita mo nung nag-open ng Jollibee dito, tungtong yung mga tao, because they're so proud.
Pero Miss Rosette, ano po yung masasabi mo na yung mga parents dito na hindi nila tinuturuan magsalita ng Tagalog ang ibang mga bata dito? Then it ended po na yung mga bata, biniblame nila yung mga magulang na isa yung daddy ko, hindi naman pinupush na magsalita kami ng Tagalog. Ano po yung...
Well, I think it's because yun nga, kasi nga bilingual tayo, 'di ba? So we want our children to be able to communicate with with people here in Canada. So I think it wasn't a priority for us to teach our children. But you know what? Meron akong mga estudyante before na na talagang fluent Ilocano magsalita. Kasi yung parents nila are Ilocano, and they did not allow their child to speak in English while they were at home. So itong bata, lumaki na fluent in Ilocano kahit dito na siya pinanganak. So it really depends on the parents. I mean, even the way that we inculcate discipline in our children, yung pagsisimba, yung pagnonovena, pagrorosaryo. Alam nyo, yung mga anak namin, pag sinabi namin, let's gather in front of the altar and let's pray the rosary. Alam mo, wala kang maririnig na reklamo or anything from them, because they're also very active in the church. Kasi my husband and I were couples for Christ. And so even our children were exposed to that community life in the church. Kaya ang nangyari sa mga bata, ganun din sila. So they're very strong pro-lifers, ang dalawa naming anak na babae. They're very much yung mga ano nila, yung for example yung boyfriend ng panganay ko, hindi ko pinayagan na magligawan sila sa labas. He really had to come here, and I told my daughter, kailangan pumunta siya dito sa bahay, kailangan makilala namin siya and all that. Talagang sumusunod sila sa mga tradisyon. And so if you only insist as a parent, if you insist these values in your children, it's not impossible. Susunod sila. Kasi it's in our DNA na sumunod sa magulang.
Kasi yun yung problema, Brad Tony, no? Sa ibang magulang, pag doon na yung anak nila lumaki sa US, sa Europe, sa Canada, o kahit anong lugar, parang nawawala yung kultura natin. So it's up to the parents kung paano yan na hindi talaga mawala sa mga bata. Okay.
Yeah.
So parang wala na tayong oras, Brad Tony. So, Ma'am Rose, ano po yung parting message mo, lalong-lalo na sa mga nasa Pilipinas ngayon at balak na pumunta ng Canada at sa ibang bansa? Ano yung tip?
Lalo na sa nakikinig ngayon, the people who are watching you, Miss Rosette.
Yes.
Just come to Canada. Just come here. And wala akong ibang masasabi sa inyo kung hindi tapangan lang ninyo ang inyong loob. Lakasan lang ninyo ang inyong loob kasi it's not any different from the Philippines. In fact, when you're in Canada, you will not feel that you're far away because we have such a loving Filipino community wherever you go in whatever province. I've met many people from different provinces who have very big Filipino communities there. You will not feel that you're not at home. You'll always feel at home here in Canada and people will support you. So, like I said, lakasan lang po ninyo ang inyong loob and come to Canada. We will take care of you.
Yeah, okay. Brad Tony, your parting message.
Natapos na sad attorney ang usa nato ka segment karong adlaw onya. I learned a lot from you, Miss Rosette. So I learned a lot so sana sa sunod na naman na simana maatangan din nila yung episode natin Pinoy Journey.
Yes. And yung Brad Tony, ato sang pasalamatan ng ato makadagkuan sa CCTN Channel 47, si Tatay Dudong Limchua, si Nanay Dayan Limchua, and of course, atong Diocese of Cebu, si Archbishop Jose Palma, daghang salamat. And of course, ang atong mga kaubanan diya sa TOC, sa atong CCTN studio. Thank you kaayo. Thank you kaayo, guys. Salamat kaayo ni Juan Lopez Alphabet. Salamat ni Inday Lopez, salamat ni Nilo Cabarles, ug ingon man ni Robert Algidano nga nahimong possible no kining atong broadcast karon live upat ka area no from New Brunswick, duha sa British Columbia, and of course live in Cebu, Philippines. Thank you kaayo sa atong mga crew sa CCTN Channel 47, and of course ni Ma'am Rose. Grabe, sobrang proud kami, Ma'am, no, sa accomplishments, mga achievements mo, and of course ganyan talaga ang Pinoy dapat, no? If you're asa saan ka man ilagay ng Panginoon, kahit saang lupalop ng mundo, dapat pakita natin nga Pinoy ito.
At saka si Miss Rosette po, Attorney Divine, is also helping us for the construction of Senior Santo Niño Shrine.
Wow, that's good. Okay, so thank you, Ma'am Rose, for your time. And of course, sa mga nanonood natin, sana na-inspire kayo no sa journey ni Ma'am Rose. So, hangtod na lang sa sunod simana, dinilang sa inyong paboritong tulumanon, CCTN International Pinoy Journeys.